Welcome to Med-Surg Moments, everyone, the AMSN podcast. This podcast is an engaging look at the lives of and surrounding medical surgical nurses. We are proud Med-Surg nurses just like you, sharing our stories, insights, and experiences to support you in your nursing journey. This episode is part 2 in our 3-part series on the AMSN DEI initiative. In 2020, the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses recognized that urgent change was needed to address the issues of racism and inequity that exists in nursing and America's healthcare system. In response to that, AMSN created and launched a sweeping initiative in providing education and awareness to nurses and healthcare professionals across the industry. AMSN's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusiveness initiative formally launched in March of 2021 with a goal to open conversations and drive change. In today's episode, part 2, we will focus on the formation of the volunteer efforts behind the DEI initiative, as well as the DEI e-learning module and the e-learning module on sexual orientation. With us today is Dr. Susan Swayze and Dr. Justin Fontenot. Dr. Susan Swayze is a DEI strategist and an expert researcher who combined her two loves to form Diversity Think Tank to help organizations identify transformative solutions and accomplish audacious goals. She teaches research methods and statistics to graduate students and is an accomplished scholar whose research resides at the intersection of diversity and inclusion and teaching and learning. Dr. Swayze has authored more than 50 scholarly works, including 3 edited books. Dr. Justin Fontenot is a registered nurse with 22 years experience. He started his career in acute care medical surgical nursing and spent the last decade in home care and hospice settings. In addition to his involvement in nursing education and research, Dr. Fontenot also serves as the Associate Editor of Teaching and Learning in Nursing and the editor of Med-Surg Nurse Life Magazine. Dr. Swayze, Dr. Fontenot, you've both been instrumental in these efforts, and it's truly my pleasure to welcome you to Med-Surg Moments. How are you doing today?
Happy to be here.
Good. Yes, thank you. Happy to be here.
I think we've established that from this point, we can refer to you both as Susan and Justin. Susan, do you recall your first experience where you discussed DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion? How did that experience shape your professional work in DEI?
Thank you for that question. Believe it or not, my first experience was in 1992. I was a doctoral student. I was a teaching assistant in a statistics course. And I was asked to present a session on diversity and inclusion in the classroom. So I've been at this for 25 years. And what it has shown me over time is that we're having the same conversations year after year, decade after decade, and things aren't changing fast enough. So that has propelled me to direct my research toward diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also to put boots on the ground, so get out of the ivory tower,
right,
roll the sleeves up and get deep down in it, and to work with organizations to do good work, to go from awareness to competence. So that's what we're working on with AMSN.
Wonderful. Justin, as a gay man in the South, share some of your personal and nursing career experiences.
I was born as a feminine presenting gay man. And so growing up in a very small, rural, very conservative area of Louisiana, I can tell you that I've had many experiences with people who didn't give me a chance to learn who I was as a person, because I was just immediately ostracized by my entire school. I started getting bullied in 3rd grade. I was called a queer in 3rd grade. I didn't know what that word meant. At that time in the 80s, that word was derogatory. And of course, now we've taken back and reclaimed that word. But at that time, it was derogatory. I didn't know what it meant. I've been misgendered. I've been abused. I've been bullied for pretty much my entire high school career. And then I get into nursing thinking, this is going to be great. People are going to accept me. Nurses are warm and compassionate. And for the most part, they really are, and they really have been. In terms of my career as a nurse, someone asked me recently, describe your entire career in one word. And I thought, wow, that's a difficult thing to do, right? I've had many experiences as a clinician and as a leader and now as an academic, but the one word that comes to mind often is overlooked. I've been overlooked my entire career as just the gay boy, from the South who doesn't really add anything. But honestly, I've always been great at my job. So it's been an interesting thing to be in the profession and trying to navigate that profession to do the good work, only to often be sidelined and marginalized.
Wow, that's quite a powerful introduction. Do you feel like you've had to work harder?
I absolutely had to work harder. Not only did I have to work harder, but the harder I worked, the more I was marginalized and ostracized, because there's a lot of professional jealousy in our discipline. So that's been an interesting element of my journey, my career so far in nursing.
I'm sure it's difficult sometimes to recall the events of the past, but look how far you've come. Susan, if I can ask you, tell us why you think diversity is so critical in nursing and within nursing organizations.
In terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I believe they're necessary everywhere. The only way to get us out of the starting blocks and actually have us run the race and successfully win the race is if everybody is involved. So I believe that DEI is required in every field, including nursing. Justin?
I would start out by telling a story that just painted the picture for me. This is that aha moment where I walked into a patient's room. And when I walked into the patient's room, there were two young ladies and one person was the patient. And all of a sudden, I can see a lot of anxiety and tension fall from these individuals' face. And I started sharing some information about their treatment plan and about their care and those kinds of things. And they looked at me and they said, "Could you be my doctor?" And I thought, well, I'm not a doctor, I'm a nurse. But that expression to me let me know that people who identify in the LGBTQ plus community feel safe, comfortable, and represented when someone who is also a co-member of that community engages with them. And it was at that moment when I realized that we need more diversity in our profession. And because nursing cares for our society, I often say this, if every nurse quit working right now and just walked out, our entire society would collapse. And so if we touch society that much, and society is so broad and diverse, then it only makes sense that we have a very diverse workforce. And then secondly, we need a lot of diversity in our professional organizations because the power lies in our professional organizations. So who better than to lead by example in terms of DEI than our organizations that advocate for us on a regular basis like AMSN?
Indeed. Yeah. Great question. Why do you think that we lack such diversity in healthcare? Well, what do you think the barrier is? We live in a cultural melting pot. This is one of the reasons I moved from England 30 years ago. Just moved back to Gwinnett County, Georgia, that I just learned today, as a matter of fact, the 5th most diverse county in the United States, not just in the state of Georgia. I think it's wonderful that people look different, think differently, act differently. I think that's wonderful. Why do you think that we have such a hard time mirroring that in our recruitment numbers?
I truly feel that in the STEM fields and health, that the barriers to entry are great. When you think about the sciences, the entry to get into the sciences, math and reading. So if you're not strong in those, it's difficult to tackle the sciences, right? But additionally, you can be identified, selected, encouraged.
Yeah.
And often students of racial backgrounds and of specific identities are overlooked and set aside.
When you say it like that, it's like, yeah, I wish I could disagree with that point, but you're probably exactly right. What was it like to create educational content, to put together to increase awareness and educate people about DEI?
The group sat around the table and agreed that the DEI work, it needs to be something that AMSN accepts, upholds, and promotes. And they looked around the room and they said, but we're so similar to each other. How are we going to move this forward at a fast pace and encompass everyone that needs to be involved in this conversation? And they decided to hire a consultant. And that was me. So I have been involved with choosing the members of the task force. We handpicked them. With choosing the members of the steering committee and meeting with them, which is a group that's outside of the nursing profession. Some of them are nurses, some aren't, but they have purview of diversity, equity, and inclusion in organizations. I've been involved with the AMSN and AJJ staff in terms of working with DEI on the organizational side, with governance, with their procedures, policies, what's on the website. So I've been involved in all of it, and I have enjoyed every minute of it. AMSN is truly focused on inclusion. If you look at their membership and how they have their doors open to so many types of nurses, including student nurses and LPNs, AMSN is truly about inclusion. And so as we looked at the DEI initiative, we thought, do we go narrow or do we go broad? And AMSN went as broad as they could. So the DEI initiative for this organization is not just focused on race. It's focused on age generations, religion and culture, persons with disabilities, sexual orientation as separate from transgender and non-binary, separate from gender identity. So AMSN really has taken a deep dive and a broad view of what diversity is and what inclusion and equity might look like for each of those specific groups, because there's not one size fits all. And that's so important when we think about DEI, is that so often people put the blinders on and think, oh, this is about race, and therefore it's not about me.
It's so much bigger than that.
The first module of the e-learning series is actually going to be a DEI certificate. The first module was meant to be a baseline full of terminology and to introduce us to some of the greater concepts within DEI. So microaggressions, bias, but it all starts with wording. So without the terms, we can't have conversations. And that module is free to everyone. So there's no cost to take that module. And it is the first one, I believe, of 6 in the e-learning module series that will lead to a certificate in DEI. And to date, I have not found another organization that is offering such a certificate. So AMSN is truly groundbreaking, not only in taking the challenge to do such an initiative, but also in the breadth in terms of what they are covering in the initiative, but also in terms of the approach with that free module and then leading to a larger certification.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful feeling to be a part of an organization like that. I've been associated with them now for well over 20 years and have grown with them. And I've always said to nurses that AMSN is a real organization. It keeps up with current trends and issues. And if it's lacking, it makes sure it reaches out to experts like yourself to be able to facilitate the knowledge deficit and educate and enlighten everyone on this very, very important topic. Justin, how did you get involved with this initiative?
it strictly was an email that came across with this opportunity to volunteer. I had to put in an application. I received a call back. I was lucky after participating in the first few meetings, because we had these like initial meetings and we really did a lot of work around defining, well, what is AMSN's conceptual definition of things like diversity, inclusion, belonging, those kinds of things. So we had to hash all those things out. And that was a great opportunity to listen to my colleagues and my peers and people who are not like me. What a wonderful experience. And then it also really paved the way for people to say, who here can really be invited to do this work? And so the second part, yeah, I was hand selected, but I said, I want to do this. This is absolutely for me. This is where I need to go. I need to be able to have a platform and an avenue to do that work. And it is volunteerism, right? But it doesn't feel that way. For me, it feels like real, important, critical work. That's what it is to me.
We wanted the group as a whole to mirror the greater population as max 70. So we wanted max 70% female, max 70% white, max 70% older. So we were very thoughtful in terms of the task force composition, that every group that we were focused on in our 6 focus areas were represented, but also that there were enough diversity using the max 70 rule, that when we had conversations about definitions and projects and approach and encouraging people to write blogs and submit articles, that we were able to elevate and surface the topics that we felt needed to happen, that maybe I couldn't speak to as a 50-year-old Black woman, or another person couldn't speak to as a 40-year-old white woman, that we were able to definitely have those that are experiencing it to give voice to it.
Justin, can you share with our listeners a little bit about the first e-learning module on sexual orientation?
Sure. A great question, actually, because I do encourage all of our members to take a look at it. I think that we are still working on some of the modules coming out, but one of the things that I think is important is that we really look at the documented disparities in our community. And by our community, I mean gay, bisexual, and lesbian people. What I mean by looking at the disparities is that in terms of health, the biggest disparity that we see is avoidance of care. Preventative care, as opposed to that acute and tertiary type care, the preventative care catches things early, helps you to live a more longer, healthier quality of life. And the main thing that we see in the community is people who do not feel comfortable speaking about their issues related to their sexual health, the challenges that we face as gay, bisexual, and lesbian people. And the most striking thing to me is that if you don't feel comfortable approaching primary care physician or a provider of some sort because of who you are, or you don't feel like you can disclose everything for fear of judgment, or maybe you've had a traumatic past experience where you were actually judged or stereotyped by a provider, then what happens is we miss these very valuable things that impact the outcomes of our health. And so part of the module really takes a glaring look at the disparities of the gay, bisexual, and lesbian community, and it compares it to our straight counterparts. And there is some big, huge disparities there. And then the next part of the module really focuses on a conceptual model that allows a nurse, a provider, anyone in healthcare to learn and practice so that they can communicate better with individuals from our community, so that they can create a safe space, so that they can address us in the proper gender terms, the proper pronouns.
Right. Right.
You know, they can offer us the things we really need. They can create this really safe space. Anyone is capable of doing this. And when you do this, you have the opportunity to save a lot of lives.
Yeah.
So this module is not just important, it's life-saving.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. What a powerful statement. One of the things that I'm proud of being associated with AMSN is the organization always looks to be as open and support increasing awareness, whether it's something as important as DEI or whether it's clinical practice or certification. And so it sounds like the organization is onto a good thing here for sure. Justin, is there one contribution that makes you especially proud?
I would say that for me, when I was asked to author and create and given this free range to create the module specific to sexual orientation, my first thought was, I'm not good enough for this. But then I thought, well, I've been a gay man in the South for 42 years. Who else is an expert at life in that manner besides me? And then also I thought, this is a great opportunity to actually show people who we are as a community, as an identity. And it really allowed me to put it all out on the table. All the things I ever wanted to say to the people that didn't give me a chance because of how I act or who I was poured into this sexual orientation module. And so I'm especially proud of the work there because I know this. Despite a lot of the things we hear about DEI and the tensions that we encounter in the practice setting and in nursing and healthcare in general, overwhelmingly, people are making an effort to listen. People are making an effort to change. When I came to AMSN, I said, well, I wonder how this DEI initiative is going to be different. And they went right straight forward to putting the action to a lot of the words we were speaking. And so for me, that let me know that one, I'm glad to be a part of this. Two, I need to be a part of this. And three, I have the perfect opportunity to help people to understand folks like me, right? And make us relevant. And I think people want to learn. If you look at the literature and you kind of look at how people embrace diversity, it's usually because they get exposure to diversity, maybe at a young age, maybe in the community that they live in, and they end up embracing it. But not everybody comes from the same community. Not everybody comes from the same place. They need to hear it. They need to listen. They need to learn. And this was just the perfect opportunity for that. Dr. Swayze hit the nail on the head here with there's a lot of barriers to entrance to practice. And if anybody, this is especially my area, if anybody is interested in that, I would really urge you to take a look at the work of Dr. Michelle DeCoux-Hampton, who is doing some amazing, phenomenal work on holistic admissions and really looking at why we continue to uphold whiteness and lack of diversity in nursing programs. So her work is phenomenal. I just wanted to mention that.
Absolutely. Yeah. How has the task force experience influenced your work?
As an academic, the biggest thing I focus on is through this lens of equity. So I really appreciate Dr. Swayze's comments because one of the things I'm more focused on is removing as many barriers as I can. Now, as you might imagine, nursing is very much rooted in that colonialism and this is where we get nursing from. Nursing has its own kind of like culture, and that culture sometimes prevents us from moving forward. And so I have to be the one in the uncomfortable position all the time to say, can we do something different? Can we quit giving the tests that we give? The literature is not showing that that's working for us. Like there's other ways to do this. So my work is always focused through that lens in nursing. And I've been so great to not only work on the module for AMSN, but to also be invited to a webinar. So if you're a member, check out our webinar. We did a LGBTQ plus roundtable. We brought together everyone from the trans community to the gay and bisexual community, all to the table to discuss how nursing is for us. And the other thing is that we also, my colleagues and I, so lovely that AMSN gave us the platform to talk about blood equity and the discrimination that gay men face. One thing that's really striking to me in terms of the FDA ban, and I'm not going to, that's a whole nother episode, but one thing that's really striking to me, and I think this is just sums up DEI work altogether. Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean that it's not important to you. And the reason why I say that is because if you need a blood transfusion one day, these harmful discriminatory policies could actually affect your own health and your own life. So this is for everyone, even if you haven't lived this experience of being marginalized.
Right. Well, what a powerful statement to as we have to wrap up here. Susan, Justin, it's truly been a pleasure having you on board with this very important episode of Med-Surg Moments. Thank you for sharing your time and your expertise with us. And I, for one, will be looking at the modules and learning from them as well. Thank you both very, very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It was lovely.
We look forward to connecting with you all on our next episode of Med-Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. Send us your questions, topic ideas, and feedback via our official Med-Surg Moments email address, amsnpod@amsn.org. That's amsnpod@amsn.org. I'd also like to remind you to become a member or renew your membership at www.amsn.org. You'll receive lots of cool benefits and perks, such as discounted pricing on annual convention and continuing education.
We encourage you to help us spread the word and subscribe to the Med-Surg Moments podcast via your smartphone podcast app to receive notifications of future episodes. Please be sure to leave us a review, tell us how we're doing, and recommend Med-Surg Moments wherever you get your podcasts to help us reach even more listeners. I also invite you to join the conversation by sharing your ideas and questions on AMSN's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter pages. And don't forget to add #MedSurgMoments to your post. Simply enter AMSN in the search field on any of these social media platforms to connect with us.
The content within the Med-Surg Moments podcast represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-hosts and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses. Until next time, I'm Chelsea.
I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Caroline. And always remember, Med-Surg Moments is a moment in our lives, a moment in our Med-Surg careers that make a huge difference.